Lilly and Jack Sullivan, the children who vanished from their own home. They disappeared into thin air, without a sound, without a trace, without a cry. A 6-year-old girl and her 8-year-old brother. They didn't run away. They didn't get into a stranger's car. They didn't sneak out the door at night. They were home, in their beds, in their pajamas, under the roof that was supposed to be the safest place on earth. And in the morning, they were gone. This isn't a story about a crime-ridden city. It's not about negligent parents who forgot to lock the door. It's not a story where the guilty party is obvious from the start. This isn't a story that can be explained away with logic. It's terrifying because it shatters our idea of safety. Because if children can disappear like this, from their own home, in the middle of the night, with no witnesses, then it can happen anywhere, to anyone. Spring 2024, Canada, Nova Scotia, the small village of Cambridge in Kings County, a quiet place surrounded by pine trees and old farmland. It's home to people who've left the city behind, who value peace and solitude, who want a place to raise their kids away from the noise. The Sullivan house stood at the edge of town. A wooden house with a simple yard, a sandbox, a sagging swing set, and a long gravel driveway leading into the woods. Hardly anyone passed by accident. Nobody walked here for no reason. It was off the grid, off the map. Which is why, when a call came into the RCMP at 10 a.m. on May 2nd, reporting 2 missing children from that very house, it sent a chill down everyone's spine. Not because it was rare, but because it felt impossible, absurd, terrifying in its silence. The mother reported she had woken up that morning and found Lilly and Jack gone. Just gone. Their room was empty, beds unmade. Their clothes were still there, shoes by the door. The TV was off, toys untouched, doors locked, windows latched, and no one, as if they had been erased overnight, like someone took an eraser to the drawing of their lives. Police arrived quickly. Everything inside looked ordinary. No signs of struggle, nothing out of place, no mess, no panic. Everything exactly where it should be, too exactly. As if the children had vanished according to a script, as if it had been planned. The RCMP immediately escalated the case. Within hours, they brought in K-9 units, helicopters, drones, thermal imaging. They searched forests, ditches, greenhouses, fields. Every structure within a 5-kilometer radius was checked, every inch. They searched for the living. They searched for bodies. They searched for clues, for anything. They found nothing. No footprints, no tire marks, no scent trails for the dogs. Security cameras, if any neighbors had them, showed nothing. No screams were heard. No strange cars, no unusual activity. It soon became clear, this wasn't a standard missing persons case. The children hadn't run away. They were too young to leave at night without shoes, too afraid of the dark, too attached to their routine. And most of all, why would they leave? People in Cambridge started whispering, then talking. Something didn't add up. Not in the family's behavior, not in their story, not in their reaction. The mother seemed confused, but not heartbroken. The stepfather was reserved, but not shattered. The house didn't feel like a home in mourning, just quiet. The RCMP reclassified the case from a missing person search to a criminal investigation. Behavioral analysts were called in, domestic violence experts. They made a list of everyone who had access to the home. The interviews began, long ones, one after another. Polygraphs, cross-checks, timelines. They discovered the last confirmed sighting of Lilly was in late April. Jack had been seen near the house on May 1st by a neighbor, riding his bike. But even then, the boy seemed off, tired, withdrawn. No smile. And then, nothing. The mother claimed both children were home the evening of May 1st, watching cartoons, eating dinner. Went to bed around 10. After that, silence. Then morning. Then an empty room. Police seized phones, tablets, hard drives, checked everything, texts, searches, photo backups. The RCMP reached out to cell carriers to track phone movements. Were there signals during the night? Did anyone leave the house? Nothing suspicious. No movement. GPS data stayed in the house. Everything checked out, too perfectly. Investigators reviewed hundreds of hours of footage from private cameras within a 20-kilometer radius. Dash cams from trucks, cameras on farms, in stores. Looking for anything. A car, a hooded figure, headlights in the night. Nothing. As if the village had frozen in time. Then whispers turned darker. Local forums buzzed with theories. That the children had been dead long before the call was made. That the bodies had been hidden. That the story about waking up to find them gone was a lie. No hard evidence, just atmosphere. But that atmosphere screamed that something was wrong. Police didn't release the polygraph results, but they confirmed the family's accounts conflicted. Someone got confused about details. Someone forgot what time the kids went to bed. Someone wasn't sure if the door had been locked. Too much uncertainty. Too little grief. RCMP requested new search warrants. Soon it emerged that digital materials had been sent to Ottawa for forensic analysis. Investigators refused to say what was found. On May 8th, the official search was paused. Volunteers were told, "You did all you could, we'll continue," but in a different mode. A month later, the children were still listed as missing, but no one in Cambridge believed they were alive. Everyone waited for someone to crack, or for the earth to give up its secret. Part 2. Silence in the walls. In those days, the Sullivan house felt frozen in time, curtains drawn, yard empty, only the wind moving the swing. No footsteps, no voices, no life. It stood like a stage after the final act, actors gone, audience silent, unsure what it all meant. On the outside, a regular farmhouse.
It would be a big help in the case and kind of narrow down maybe some of the speculations and just provide more evidence.
Every day when I wake up, feels like I'm reliving a nightmare of May 2nd. But the main feelings from sadness have just turned to anger because there's no evidence as of after 1 month. And it's really taken a toll. I know that they're working hard and they're using every resource they have, and it makes me hopeful because that's all we have at this point is just...
Inside, a void, a silence that chilled to the bone. Neighbors began remembering details. One said he heard a loud noise the night of May 1st. Another saw a light in the basement close to midnight. A third swore the mother stepped out to her car during the night, only to return minutes later. All noted by police, but none clear. Just whispers, shadows, fragments of a dream. And the deeper they dug, the darker it got. One man, living 2 kilometers away, claimed he saw a small figure on the roadside late that night, in pajamas, barefoot. He thought it was a child, but he didn't stop. Told himself he imagined it. Was it Jack? Lilly? A trick of the light? Now, it didn't matter. All that was left was doubt. But doubt wasn't enough. Police kept returning to the house, not for clues, but for inconsistencies, and they found them. Unofficial sources said there were no fresh toothbrushes for the children. Lily's clothes were all too small. Her room, sparse, cold, like a museum, like a set piece. Later, the school confirmed Lilly hadn't been seen for over 2 weeks. The mother had called in, said she was sick. Teachers trusted her. She sounded reasonable, caring. But in hindsight, none of it felt right. How much time had passed between the actual disappearance and the call to police? That became the core question, because if the children didn't vanish on May 2nd, but earlier, everything changed. Then the morning disappearance was a lie, then the story was staged, then investigators had not just suspicion, but reason to believe the children were already gone when the call was made. Hard questions. The mother and stepfather were interviewed multiple times, for hours, in closed rooms, no cameras, transcripts sealed, but reporters pieced things together. Rumors said the stepfather grew anxious during one session, lost track of the timeline, fumbled the story, couldn't explain why text messages were deleted, why fingerprints were wiped from the front door, why children's clothes were found freshly washed at high temperatures the night of May 2nd. None of it was proof, but it painted a picture, and in a case with no bodies, context is everything. Police turned to the community. Relatives, family, friends. Had anyone seen bruises, noticed odd behavior? One distant relative, a woman in a nearby town, said she called the mother the week before, wanting to visit. The mother refused, said, "Now's not a good time." Said the kids were sick. Was that true? Or a cover? Online, the pressure built. Forums exploded with theories. Some blamed the mother, others the stepfather. Some believed the children had been abducted, and the family was covering for someone. Others thought it was a tragic accident, and now the parents were hiding the truth out of fear or shame. Every version came down to one fact: the kids didn't leave on their own. They were home. They couldn't walk out, which meant they were taken out. It's a horrible thought, but the only one left when everything else is ruled out. No break-in, no signal, no witnesses, which meant it happened inside. Investigators pushed forward. Police requested more warrants, not just for electronics, but for exhumations, floorboards, DNA traces, and drains. The media didn't report it, but leaks confirmed the RCMP seriously considered the possibility that the children's bodies had been hidden on or near the property. One investigator, speaking anonymously, said something that chilled everyone. "Sometimes the truth is already in the room. We're just waiting for someone to crack." The village waited. The house stayed quiet. A month passed, then 2. The children were still listed as missing, but even the RCMP stopped saying, "We hope to find them alive." Instead, "If you know something, anything, please speak up." This wasn't a search anymore. This was a countdown. Locals called the house cursed, said the children came to them in dreams, that someone heard voices outside their window, that the night it happened, the air felt wrong, too quiet, too still, too clean, as if the place itself knew something terrible was coming. The RCMP didn't close the case. No bodies, no charges, no bodies, no closure. But investigators were certain the truth was inside, in the walls, in someone still living with the secret. And until it's pulled into the light, those kids would remain listed as missing, officially. But in everyone's hearts, they were already gone. Part 3. When the house knows more than the people. Cambridge felt like a town holding its breath. Holidays no longer sounded the same. People greeted each other with fewer words. They stayed indoors. Children no longer played in yards. A couple living next door to the Sullivans quietly put their home up for sale. No listing, no sign. They took down the curtains, packed the bikes, and left. And though no charges had been filed, everyone knew something had happened. Everyone felt it deep down. This wasn't just a disappearance. This was a tragedy stuck somewhere between what we know and what we can't prove.
Truth Verification Unit is engaged. There's multiple facets to those investigations, and those experts are examining every question and answer that those individuals are providing, and it could guide the investigation.
Constantly reviewing everything that's been done, looking at all different facets of available information, and we'll make decisions on that. I can't really comment on the details of that, but we will pursue every lead that becomes available and take it to where it is.
Investigators kept knocking on walls, checking the basement, scanning the ground for disturbed soil. Drone sweeps showed no new holes. Thermal imaging found no hidden chambers. But one officer, inspecting the backyard, noticed something strange. A patch of earth seemed compressed differently, uneven, as if recently dug up, then covered again. It could have meant nothing, or it could have meant everything. A special team was sent to the spot. Ground-penetrating radar didn't detect significant anomalies, but no one was ready to dismiss it. Sometimes evil is buried too carefully. Sometimes it's hidden with such determination, only a confession can reveal it. And that confession never came. The children's mother avoided the press. She vanished from public view. Her social media accounts were deleted. Family members refused to comment. She hired a lawyer 1 week after the investigation began, a move that, in another situation, might be chalked up to stress. But in this context, it raised alarms. The stepfather shut down entirely. No public statements, no appeals, no videos, no photos, just brief answers to investigators. Everything else, silence. Journalists chased leads. One CBC reporter managed to speak with a former friend of the mother. She said, "There was something tense between her and the kids. They were scared of her, especially Jack. He'd go quiet, stare at the floor. Once I asked if everything was okay, and her face changed. She snapped, said it wasn't my business, then she cut off contact." This account never made it into the official file, but to those following the case, it sounded like a warning. Not everything in that house was as it seemed. Police kept digging. They looked at neighbors' phones, car routes on nearby roads, any movement, any stop. They weren't just tracking a disappearance, they were tracking movement. Because if the children weren't taken away, then they stayed. And if they stayed, then they were nearby. And if they couldn't be seen, then they were hidden. Meanwhile, the RCMP consulted with criminal psychologists. One of them, involved in the case, said in an interview, "When you watch how a family responds to a disappearance, you don't look for tears, you look for cracks, carelessness, story inconsistencies, fatigue that shows too soon. In this case, something's off, too rehearsed, like someone practiced the script, The children didn't just vanish. Someone made them disappear. It was said out loud now, first quietly, then louder. The investigation didn't say it outright, but press releases used new words: suspicion, long-term concealment, alleged third-party involvement. One officer, speaking off the record, said, "We know who. We're almost certain what happened. What we don't have are the bodies." No bodies means no charges. No charges means no trial. No trial, no justice. Everything's stuck in limbo, a place where even truth is helpless. On social media, pages dedicated to Lilly and Jack began to appear. People left comments, candles, photos, drawings. Someone mailed a card. "If you're out there, hang on, we haven't forgotten." Someone else posted, "Bring our children back." The most chilling part wasn't their disappearance. It was that no one was looking for them as if they were alive. A final mistake. In the summer of 2024, 2 months after the children vanished, police searched the house again. A new warrant had been issued, details undisclosed to the press. The house was sealed off for 3 days. Neighbors saw investigators carry out bags, boxes, metal containers. What was inside, no one knew. The RCMP press office gave no comment, citing confidentiality in the interest of the investigation. But journalists reported a possible breakthrough. An object had been found that might contain biological traces. Maybe blood, maybe DNA, maybe something that could confirm this house was a crime scene. Nothing was officially confirmed. But within a week, the case was reclassified. No longer a disappearance. Now it was a suspected double homicide of minors. Still, no arrests. Police began discussions with prosecutors. A file was being built, a case prepared, and everything hinged on one thing. If there were no bodies, could they still prove the children were dead? Then came a signal. A man from a nearby town called the police. His name was kept secret. He claimed he overheard something, a drunken voice, female, in a bar, slurred but disturbing. If it hadn't been for that boy, it would have worked. She screamed, and he ran. Then it all went wrong. Just fragments. A phrase. Not evidence, but investigators followed up. Who said it? To whom? When? Was she connected to the family? That information remains classified, but the investigation gained momentum. More interviews, more lab tests, another attempt to get a confession, even if indirect, even if implied, anything that could push the case forward. Part 4. The House That No Longer Breathes. Months passed. The Sullivan house stood empty, windows boarded up, grass overtaking the yard, police markers still visible on the walls. Occasionally people would come, not police, not family, not neighbors, just strangers. They'd stand and stare, say nothing, as if they felt something. There was no life here anymore, but the silence was heavy. It didn't let go. It seemed to whisper, something still lies hidden, and until it's found, no one will have peace. Still no bodies, still no charges. But there were things that couldn't be unseen. Context, detail, emotion. A pain growing louder with nowhere to go. Lily's mother disappeared from public view. So did the stepfather. Journalists reported they no longer lived in Cambridge. No one knew their address. No interviews, no court appearances. But they were free. And that drove people mad. Because the whole town felt like it was under glass. Everyone lived with the knowledge something terrible happened here, and no one was held accountable. As if truth didn't matter. As if you could erase children from the world and just walk away. But the investigation didn't give up. The RCMP continued. Even without bodies, they treated the case as a double homicide. Recent updates said they'd contacted foreign databases, possibly because someone involved had tried to leave Canada. Police also ordered a new round of DNA testing through private labs specializing in microscopic residue. Any lead could be the key. One morning, a TV crew showed up at the Sullivan house. They were filming a report for the anniversary of the children's disappearance. A reporter stood in front of the house, reading a live script. Behind her, the empty, silent home. When she finished, the cameraman kept rolling. And at one moment, in an upstairs window, viewers swore they saw the silhouette, a shadow, a face, a shape. That night, the footage went viral. People wrote, "That was Lilly. She's calling for help." Some believed, some didn't, but everyone felt the same. This place wouldn't let go. A trial with no courtroom. Legally, no one can be charged without a body, But investigators are exploring other paths, building a case from circumstantial evidence, looking for anyone who heard, saw, or suspected, using psychological profiling. At the same time, activists began pushing for reform, a Lilly and Jack law that would allow prosecution when disappearances are tied to concealment and false statements. A movement was born. Where are they? People organized vigils, lit candles, wrote letters to lawmakers. Street art appeared, silhouettes of children standing in front of trees. A caption, "We were here, no one forgot." But with every passing week, it became clearer. This case might never have an ending. No confession, no justice. And that is the most terrifying thing of all. What if everyone knew, but said nothing? Some neighbors said they heard screams, saw frightened children, knew something was wrong, but didn't act. Because it wasn't their business. Because everyone has problems. Because she seemed like a good mom. And now, 2 young lives are gone. And not one person can say, with certainty, I did everything I could to save them. Psychologists say silence kills as surely as hands. That evil often hides in the ordinary. That the real horror isn't monsters in the dark. It's parents who can erase their children and then quietly make coffee. Epilogue. Sometimes people leave toys at the scene. Little figurines, toy cars, teddy bears. Someone tied a white balloon to the fence, a symbol of memory. The wind never took it. It stayed, as if it, too, couldn't leave until the truth was told. The story of Lilly and Jack Sullivan is about how terrifying it is to be forgotten by the living, about how a system can be blind without a body, how hope turns to despair when time stretches pain. It's not a mystery, it's a scream. Cold, silent, from inside a locked house. And until someone answers, this house will stand as a warning, as a curse, as the memory of 2 children who one day simply ceased to exist.